Many people think of a farm as a rural collection of barns and fields run by one farming family. In reality, some farms are massive industrial type facilities owned and operated by large corporations. These are called factory farms. Today I'm going to tell you about the dangerous threats industrial farming poses to our domestic animals and ourselves, and why the government should make standardized laws to regulate its practice. I have researched both sides of the controversy, and the need for government regulation is far more necessary than continuing to practice this awful method of food production. First, I will tell you about the daily unthinkable animal cruelty it practices. Second, I will tell you about the economical and ecological concerns that are involved with industrial farming, and finally, the health threats it poses onto its consumers. Let me begin by telling you this torture and cruelty that millions of animals are forced to endure in factory farms every single day. In civil cases, animal cruelty is illegal, but government has no standard regulations with livestock animals subjected to industrial farming. Torturing animals is inhumane and raises both ethical and moral concerns. Animals are highly evolved animals that have the capacity to feel and experience emotions like we do. According to David Kendall's article titled "Factory Farming, a Cruel and Destructive Industry," quote, "Animals in these types of farms have unanesthetized surgeries. For example, hens and chickens get their beaks removed. Pigs get their tails cut off, and cattle have to get their horns detached. All of these are very painful procedures, and the animals feel the pain." Another cruel practice is force feeding the animals to stimulate overgrowth of the muscle tissue. For example, cows mainly eat a corn and grain feed that contains chemical preservatives, antibiotics, and hormones, instead of eating a natural plant-based diet. These animals are also forced to live under the most unthinkable conditions. According to an anonymous article titled "Farming Forward Against Animal Abuse in Factory Farming," cows and the cattle are confined to feedlots contaminated with urine, feces, and mud. And hogs in most states are routinely confined to crates so small that they cannot even turn around. Many animals also face premature impregnation and also are artificially inseminated. In many farms, baby female chicks are kept alive for egg production, while the male chicks are destroyed instantly. Because of these practices, many animals suffer from severe chronic respiratory infections, gastrointestinal blood diseases, and osteoporosis. Now that you are aware of the cruelty and animal abuse these factory farms operate, I will tell you about the economical and environmental issues they cause. You may not know this, but the industrial farming industry affects our economy and our environment. The farming industry is a large-scale corporation, and it is erasing traditional small-scale family farming from our economy. According to Coleman McCarthy, quote, "The increasing concentration of agricultural capital to fewer owners has followed the normal evolution of monopoly capitalism. In the 1930s, 24% of Americans worked in farming. In 2002, it was 1.5%. In the United States, 4 companies produce 81% of cows, 73% of sheep, 57% of pigs, and 50% of chickens. Industrial farming, or factory farms, account for most livestock production. For example, of the 95 million pigs slaughtered in the U.S. in 2002, 80% were raised on factory farms." The corporations argue that they need massive production to supply the demand and to keep prices low. However, data show that their interest is purely profit, and they are careless and indifferent to the conditions they force upon immigrant workers and the livestock. These corporations also have little regard for the repercussions this industry has on our environment. According to David Kendall's article, livestock produce 18% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, measured in carbon dioxide equivalents. That is more than is produced by the total world transportation systems. In case you are wondering what this means, it means that this practice is worsening global warming and can cause significant climate change. Also, we are polluting our fresh water supply and our air. Pesticide chemicals such as ammonia and animal waste have been found in over 90% of our wells and streams in the U.S. Now let me tell you why this is an urgent and necessary to regulate this industry, and it has to do with our health. You can have all the money and power in the world, but if you don't have your health, you have nothing. America eats meat, and lots of it. Our country is suffering from a health crisis, and it is thanks largely to the consumption of processed foods, poor quality animal products, infested with hormones and other toxic chemicals like ammonia and arsenic. We are exposed to toxins and we don't even know it. According to Coleman McCarthy, roxarstone is an arsenic containing additive used to promote growth and kill parasites in animals, and has been linked to cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. Also, the usage of antibiotics is creating a huge resistant bacteria epidemic. Bacteria are ubiquitous organisms that quickly evolve, and when exposed to antibiotics, they quickly find a way to mutate their DNA to resist being killed by them, and consequently make our medicines become ineffective. In Michael Hill's article, he says that 8 times more pounds of antibiotics are used in American livestock than are used in human medicine. And according to David Kendall, the number of staph infection deaths in the U.S. from the antibiotic-resistant Staphylococcus aureus strain MRSA is greater than deaths from AIDS. This is the reason why diseases like gonorrhea and tuberculosis are starting to appear again in dangerously high numbers. Let me conclude by recapping my points. First, I told you about the daily animal cruelty done to millions of helpless animals. And second, I told you about the economic and ecological concerns industrial farming brings. And finally, I told you about the health threat it poses onto us, its consumers. Now it's time for you to decide and demand the government to pass regulation laws in industrial farming to end animal cruelty and better the conditions of its practice. Remember that our individual health and the health of our environment, which includes our domestic animals, are at stake if we don't do something about it. Thank you. Apláudenme si quieren.